The moon landings, was it real or was it fake? Today we're going to be talking about the moon landings and we're going to be discussing some of the possibilities to determine whether or not this event actually happened or whether or not this was a fake hoax. And if it were a hoax, we're going to be talking about some of the key reasons why this could be a hoax, who benefits if it is a hoax, why they would even fake such a thing, and what could be the bigger agenda behind all this and how this plays into the plans of the New World Order. While this is said to be one small step for man and one giant leap for mankind, could this be something bigger than that? Could this actually be one small hoax for man and one giant lie for mankind? Stay tuned as you see the truth be revealed to you today. On July 20th, 1969, the world was convinced that man did the unthinkable. Three astronauts by the name of Neil Armstrong, Edwin Buzz Aldrin Jr., and Michael Collins would become the three first men to walk on the moon from the Apollo 11 mission, so we're told. But what really happened on that day? Was there really a mission to the moon at all? And were they really on the moon at all? That and more to come as we reveal the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth about what really happened on Apollo 11 that day. Now, while NASA wants us to believe that there's been 6 manned US landings on the moon between the years 1969 and 1972, with no more missions or plans to go to the moon after 1972, we're going to find out and uncover the truth, because when you look at this picture alone, you start to see something very startling about it. In fact, I see a few things wrong with it, but can you see the problem with this picture automatically? And it does not even have to take you 10 minutes to find out what's wrong with it, because you first start to see who is the one really taking this picture. But when you take a closer picture of the actual moon landings, supposedly, you start to see some very startling things indeed. And the first thing you start to see, of course, and many have noted this, is the waving flag. How can there be a waving flag in a place that has no atmosphere, according to NASA and according to space, where there is no wind whatsoever? How can that be the case? How can there be a waving flag whatsoever? And if the moon landings did in fact happen, you start to notice something else that's missing from this big picture and from this equation. Can you see what's missing in the background? Not only that, but another problem with these moon landings and the evidence that they're showing us is that there is no evidence of the moon impact crater. Now, according to them, there are craters that were supposedly on the moon. Well, I don't see any craters whatsoever that impacted in this picture, in this photograph whatsoever. What's even more eerie and interesting and suspicious indeed about all of this is that during the supposed landings, there was no stars or even footage of stars shown whatsoever in the background. So one has to really wonder, how did they get to the moon and how did they even land there if there were no stars there or no footage of stars seen or pictured whatsoever? What's really going on here? And if you thought that was bad, well, it gets much worse, because NASA has also been caught using multiple backgrounds and multiple backdrops, and even the use of sets too, because as you can see in the picture in the top left hand corner, this is a picture that was taken of the supposed moon on the supposed Apollo 15 mission. Well, when you look at that and when you look at another background that was taken from them, the backgrounds seem to match identically and exactly together. Now, why would they appear to be the same background exactly, even though NASA argues and asserts that they're completely different from each other? What is really going on, and what is the bigger agenda behind NASA? Now, we're also going to talk about this from a scientific perspective too, because when you look at it, you start to see there are many problems with this indeed. Now, what you're actually looking at is the picture of the supposed moon landings, and the blue arrows that you see, they indicate many directions of the sunlight that's coming from the sun, because according to them, the sun is 93 million miles away. But anyway, the orange circle also shows the hot spot of lighting, and then the plus sign indicates the camera lens axis, but the man shadow does not seem to point the camera in that particular direction. And then if you take even a closer look, you start to see the center of lens axis and the direction of sunlight that casts over the shadow of Surveyor 3. Then you also see the direction of the sunlight casting a shadow of the photographer. And then you see that the source of the supposed sunlight is just off stage to the left, according to the shadows, as the yellow lines indicate, as you can see right here. The shadows from the faraway source, like the sun, they should be parallel in the photo. However, from a close source on a stage set, the light rays would diverge as seen in this Apollo 14 photograph because the light is much closer. The shadows therefore point to the light source. So what is the problem with all this? The problem is that there's only one light source coming, and that light source is from the sun. But when you look at the pictures closely, the light rays from the sun don't seem to come from the sun whatsoever. It would be impossible for light rays from the sun to actually reach these angles at the angles that it's showing, because it's a fake. We see that there were no stars whatsoever in any of the photographs or footage that was taken of the 1969 moon landings, let alone some of the other ones. We also saw the waving flag, which is impossible if they actually did land on the moon. There was also no evidence of crater impacts on the supposed moon. And then also the bigger question is, who's recording the whole thing? Because how can someone be recording when they just got to the moon? Who is recording their every move is the better question. But see, they've been telling us the truth right in front of our faces, because this was an issue that was put out from Weekly World News that says moon landing was a hoax. We never went. NASA made $30 billion movie to fool the entire world. And why they want you to think it's a joke, and why they want you to think that they're making fun of this, they're actually putting the truth and telling you the truth right in front of you, because that's exactly how they do it. But now we're going to talk about how this was hoaxed, why it was hoaxed, and what is the benefit of hoaxing this, and the bigger agenda behind spending billions of dollars on such a hoax and such a seemingly little lie. Because everything is not what it seems, but I'm telling you, they're putting the truth right in front of you, because this is an actual article that comes from Huffington Post, and it says NASA shows how Photoshop is used to create stunning images of space, because that's exactly what NASA does. And they've even admitted that they use Photoshop for their pictures of space and pictures of planets and pictures of the moon as well. Is it possible that they did the same thing for the moon landings? Is it possible that it was all one great big sham to begin with? And this is exactly how. Because the picture that you're currently looking at is a beach photograph that was taken. But what if I were to tell you that you can transform this very picture that you're looking at into the setting of what looks like the moon? And you're going to see exactly how this can be done. Now we're going to take that same picture and that same image that we've already seen, and now we're going to turn it black and white, and this is what we get. Then we're going to blacken the sky using spray or paint infill to do so, and we're going to get this result. Next, we will reverse the orientation of the image so that it's flipped, so now you see it the opposite way around. And 1, 2, 3, add a picture of an astronaut dressed in a spacesuit and a picture of a rover, and this is exactly what you get, your man on the moon indeed. But it doesn't stop there, because everything you thought you knew was in fact a lie, and everything you thought was true was in fact false. Because as you see in the image above, you see a desert photograph taken of Egypt, but when you look at the supposed photographs of Mars, they look exactly alike. Very interesting and suspicious indeed. Yes, my friends, CGI is the way to go. That's how they're able to fake everything. That's how they're able to fake the lunar missions. That's how they're able to fake the astronauts. And that's how they're able to produce those fake images and fake pictures that you see of the fake planets and the fake moon landings each and every single day. And that's also how they're able to stage the fake satellites as well. Because this picture that you're looking at on the right, it shows you a moon surveyor probe at some remote desert location here on Earth, probably Devon Island in the Canadian Arctic, where they're now preparing to fake a manned Mars mission. Now, why would NASA ship the probe to a remote location in order to take this picture, and why are there numerous moon boot footprints all over it? Do NASA technicians wear moon boots all the time? The sandy surface also shows signs of brushing, evidently to remove other footprints not consistent with a moon boot print, because they have to fake it any single way they can. And here in this picture, you see the exact same probe, and you see an astronaut that was inserted into the picture on the supposed moon once again, because this is just one of the many ways that they fake it. Now later on in this video, we'll talk about Area 51 and other potential hidden places where they could have filmed the fake moon landing footages, but we also see that they filmed it at the LRC Virginia, and we're going to talk more about that later on. But as you can see, here are early fake pictures that were taken at the LRC Virginia. The latter pictures, however, were doctored photos from KSC shown left. Notice the background's hedges and the trees. Unfortunately, the same site was used to take the picture on the right, which they claim is the moon. As you can see, the picture right here is the picture right here, and they claim that this is from the moon. The reflection in the visor shows the trees and the hedges at the KSC. But NASA even tells you how they fake the moon landings too via Project Lola, because now we're going to be talking about Project Lola, and we're at the actual NASA website that gives you more information of Project Lola and the exact ways of how they faked the moon landings at the Langley Space Center, or the LSC, that's located in Virginia. And this is what it says from the NASA website. It says, Project Lola, Lunar Orbit and Landing Approach. Artists use paintbrush and airbrushes to recreate the lunar surface of each of the 4 models comprising the Lola simulator. Project Lola, or Lunar Orbit and Landing Approach, was a simulator built at Langley to study problems related to landing on the lunar surface, because they never actually landed. They were just using this to fake the moon landings. It was a complex project that cost nearly $2 million. Then it goes on to say, in Spaceflight Revolution, NASA Langley Research Center from Sputnik to Apollo, James Hansen wrote, quote, "The simulator was designed to provide a pilot with a detailed visual encounter with the lunar surface. The machine consisted primarily of a cockpit, a closed-circuit TV system, and 4 large murals or scale models representing portions of the lunar surface as seen from various altitudes. The pilot in the cockpit moved along a track past these murals, which would accustom him to the visual cues for controlling a spacecraft in the vicinity of the moon. Unfortunately, such a simulation, although great fun and quite aesthetic, was not helpful because flight in lunar orbit posed no special problems other than the rendezvous with the LEM, which the device did not simulate. Not long after the end of Apollo, the inexpensive machine was dismantled." As you can see from the photographs pictured here, this was one of the many ways that they were able to fake the moon landings via Project Lola, because not only did they simulate the moon and paint the moon, but then they also used film footage and equipment to stage and make it look as though they were on the moon when they were in fact not. Here are the same pictures that are zoomed in a little bit more. As you can see, this actually comes from NASA, and it comes from Project Lola, how they simulated and faked the moon landings. But it goes much deeper than that, because why spend all this time, money, and energy to stage all of these things and fake such a massive hoax to the entire world and nearly get the entire world to buy such a massive hoax? Why do that, and what's the bigger benefit out of it? That and more to come. As you can see from a picture taken from Northern Arizona University, Here are two geologists that are dressed in replica spacesuits conducting simulated missions at Cinder Lake Crater Field that's located in Arizona. So if you can't go to the moon, that's okay because they just go here to Arizona and they film the entire thing right here. Now, it was not just NASA that was in on the scheme, and it's not just these Freemasonic astronauts who give their allegiance to Satan every single day. Oh no, because it's also Stanley Kubrick as well. And guess what? Your lovely presidents were in on the scheme as well, because JFK and all the other ones knew that they really did not go to the moon indeed. But you're probably wondering what Stanley Kubrick has to do with this. Because Stanley Kubrick, along with many other film directors, artists, and many others, were told and conspired together to film and fake the moon landings together. And in fact, Stanley Kubrick subliminally told you in the 1972 movie called The Shining, with the boy wearing the shirt known as Apollo 11 in room 237, when according to them, the moon is approximately 237,000 miles away from Earth, even though when you actually look at the sky, the moon is much closer, and so is the sun. And of course, we cannot forget Area 51, because this is another location that was used to not only film and fake the moon landings, but it's also another location used to film all of those lovely NASA pictures that you see and all those lovely NASA footages that you see of planet Earth. Even though it's all faked and staged, they film using zero gravity planes and technology, and they also film underwater with these astronauts, and this is one of the many places that they film in the deserts of Arizona and Nevada respectively. And so now that we know that it is in fact staged and filmed ahead of time, and now that we know some of the bigger agenda, we're now going to talk about who else is involved. Because your government and NASA are getting help indeed, and all of the technology that you see today, they're getting help from some other entities indeed, and all of the lies and deceptions that you're seeing, oh, we wrestle not against flesh and blood, because here you are looking at an actual photograph that comes from Area 51 that shows you a so-called alien. Shortly after World War II, the Roswell incident occurred in mid-1947, and when this incident occurred, this was, according to our government, the first time that so-called alien contact had been made, and they'd been stationed in Area 51 and have been stationed there ever since. But when you start to understand who these aliens really are and where they really come from, then you start to understand exactly the bigger agenda and how this relates to the fake moon landings and how this relates to the bigger agenda of the New World Order and the one world government to come. Because now we will talk about why the moon landings was a hoax and why they spent all this billions of dollars and all this time to lie and deceive the world. Because right after the Roswell incident, that is when the so-called aliens, they teamed up with your government, and they teamed up with the Freemasons and the Illuminati in order to start their fraudulent space program known as NASA. And ever since 1958, since this space program has been started, they've given you the illusion of a space race, and oh, they're rushing against Russia to land a man on the moon and all this other propaganda, even though we've just proven it is impossible to go to the moon. It is impossible to put man on the moon because they staged and hoaxed the same thing. And even NASA tells you the same thing too. But it's also no surprise that you've been seeing movies in the mainstream media such as Alien and E.T. the Extraterrestrials, along with different TV shows and movies and books that all point to the alien propaganda. And the reason that there's such a push for this propaganda is because they want you to believe in aliens, and they want you to believe that there's actual space, and they want you to believe that they actually put a man on the moon, because then you'll believe and accept the alien deception to come. Because here's the movie poster that's showing you alien, but I see the word lie in alien because there's a bigger lie indeed. And the bigger agenda is going to be on Project Bluebeam. Now, I've done a video on Project Bluebeam, and the reason this is so important is because the elite are literally telling you what's about to come. And the reason you're seeing all of these movies getting you ready and mentally conditioning you for aliens and comets and things like that, even though it's all going to be staged ahead of time, is because it's getting you ready for holographic imaging and projection screenings. And I hope you see it with both your eyes open, but they need you to believe that there are aliens that are really coming from outer space, and that there are other planets, and that man can go to the moon, and that it's possible to put a man on the moon. They need you to believe these things, and they need you to condition you to believe such things and such lies, so that when the big deception happens, your mind will already be conditioned and ready for the big deception. Because what's going to happen soon enough is your president and your pope and all of your elite, they're going to come onto the screen soon enough, and they're going to tell you, oh my goodness, we made contact with aliens. Oh my gosh, we made contact with aliens in outer space, and they're coming to Earth, and they're going to attack everybody soon. We need to merge together as a new world order in order to fight off this threat, and we need to merge with space-based nuclear weapons in order to fight off this threat. When that happens, that's going to be the basis for them merging into their new world order almost immediately and bringing all these governments together to fight off such a threat. And even your presidents have talked about this in their news statements and press statements, including ones such as Nixon and the Bush administration. They've all talked about this, and they've all have even said, including the Reagan administration, that this is how they're going to plan to merge as their new world order. Because yes, your government has been working with these so-called aliens for well over 70 years, and the biggest top secret and the biggest classified secret that the CIA and the FBI do not want you to know is that these aliens are not aliens from some other planets. First of all, they've already been here on Earth for a long time, and they're not really aliens from other planets. They are the demons, they are the fallen angels, and they're posing themselves as aliens to try to fool and deceive the entire world. But Hollywood, or should I say Hellywood, is already even telling you what's to come, even with the movie that just came out last week entitled Arrival, and it says, why are they here? Who is arriving? And there are even ancient hieroglyphics that even show and prove that UFOs were seen thousands of years ago and were spotted thousands of years ago, but have since been hidden until now. And while your government wants to continue to make you believe that all of this is a conspiracy theory, and oh, it's just conspiracy theories, just because it's mainstream does not make it the truth. Now, what's also interesting is a movie that came out this year actually, and you're actually looking at the cover of it, and as you can see, it comes from Operation Avalanche, and this is actually the cover of it, and it says, "It's not a lie if you believe it." But what else are they hiding, and what else are they lying about? Because just like the old saying goes, cheat me once, shame on you, cheat me twice, shame on me. Because NASA just cannot make up their mind when it comes to giving us a real authentic picture of how the Earth really looks. Because they want you to really think that it's a ball, even though we know better than that. Because every time you see a picture from NASA of the supposed globe, we get a single different picture every single time. Because here's a picture from 1975 that shows the Earth from NASA, but then here's a picture from 1997. As you can see, it looks totally different. The size and proportions, they do not add up whatsoever. Even a picture from 2002, and then 2007, and then 2012, it looks so different indeed, and the colors look different. Why is that always the case? And the better question is, when you actually look at footage that comes from NASA, why is there never any real video of the Earth spinning, and it's only stills and the clouds remain still from these footages? Why are the images so varied, and do you really believe that this is where we live? Can you really trust NASA, especially if you look up that word in the Hebrew? Unless there's something that they're not telling you, unless there's something they do not want you to know, because yes, everything you see from NASA is a fake. Everything that NASA tells you is a lie. It's all lies, and they profit from these lies every single day. Because yes, all of these astronauts that you see, such as Buzz Aldrin and Neil Armstrong, and the list goes on. They all serve their allegiance to Satan. They all work for Satan. They all have sold their souls, and they all get paid to lie, because when they show you fake footages of NASA and when they show you fake footages of space, they're actually taking footage from inside of a plane, a zero gravity plane, or like I said earlier, they're underwater, but they're not in space. They're nowhere near space whatsoever. Please wake up and see the truth that's been hidden right in front of you. All the planets that you see, they're all CGI, and it's all photoshopped. It's all fake, because they want you to believe that there's really space, even though there's not. And the rockets that you see and the shuttles that are launched, they're actually launched and they fall right into the water, and they drop into the water. They don't actually leave the earth, because it's impossible to leave because of the firmament that's above, or should I say the Van Allen belt. Not to mention how satellites and probes and the Hubble telescope, all of that is just one great big hoax. It's one great big fake. It's not real. It's just pictures, and all of the footage that you see from NASA, that's a fake too. Along with the UN, even though the United Nations, they're actually telling you the truth on their logo, but which will you believe? Because like I said earlier, all of the footage from NASA is in fact faked. It's all staged, and they all film in secretive locations because they do not want you to know. That's why they're constantly pushing the false Big Bang theory and the false evolution agenda, as well as all of the pseudoscience to go with it, and all of the theories and all of the Illuminati hired scientists who get paid to lie to your face each and every day. Just ask Buzz Aldrin if he's really been to the moon, and he will not be able to give you an answer, because he knows he did not, and he knows he was involved in such a nefarious agenda, not only to push such a very evil and wicked perverse lie, courtesy the Zionists who are at the top as well, but not only that, but to also hide what's right in front of us, and to hide our creator from us, as well as hide the firmament from us, which is why people are not even allowed to go to Antarctica, because they do not want you to know who your creator is, and they do not want you to see any evidence of your creator, even though the evidence is right in front of us, because it's called the horizon, because it's a horizontal line and not a curvizon, because you do not see the curve anywhere except in the fake Photoshop images and footages of NASA, which are in fact fake. In preparation to get ready for their new world order and the alien deception, when we know darn well these aliens, or should I say aliens, are the fallen ones, the fallen angels who've been conspiring with the government to make up these lies for such a long time and fake an invasion to merge the world together as the new world order, when they do not come from other planets, because these planets do not exist, but they've been here on Earth, hiding on Earth underground for a very long time, but they do not want you to know that whatsoever. But hopefully you see the whole truth and nothing but the truth, and hopefully this has opened your eyes to the full and bigger agenda of why they had to fake the moon landings, and why it was such a hoax indeed, and the bigger purposes behind all this. And as always, remember to seek Yahuwah and his true son Yahusha, so that the truth can make you free. Hopefully you see it. This is Truth Unveiled here saying Shalom.